Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Algebra 2, Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is about quadratic functions. Today I would just like to explain to you what we mean by quadratic functions. So when you hear the term quadratic functions, you should be able to articulate some general concepts of what a quadratic function is, to be able to say what it is. And this requires some understanding of basic algebraic terms, which is where we'll begin, and then I'll explain to you what we mean by a quadratic function. In general, a quadratic function is this, and this is an example. And from Algebra 1, we remember that this is a equation of a parabola, y equals x squared. So that's in fact is the parent function. Okay, parent function. Parent function meaning it's the most basic form of a quadratic function here, which allows you to understand the whole family of quadratic functions. So this is an example of a quadratic function, but that's where we're going. We want to be able to understand and define a quadratic function. So here's some basic terminology that you need to appreciate. This term here, this is a monomial. Monomial means one term, like this. This term here, this is a binomial. There are two terms here. This term here, okay, this is a trinomial. And then you can keep going and adding terms, and when you add a lot of terms, that would be called a polynomial. Poly means many, nomial, many terms. So this is a monomial, this is a binomial, this is a trinomial, and if you have more than 3 terms, that's called a polynomial. Okay? So I'm going to write for you a polynomial. Now, look, this is a polynomial. It has multiple terms. Each of these individually, that's called a term, correct? So this one here is the leading term. Okay, the first leading term. And the last one, that's the number by itself, there's no variable with it. That's the constant term. It's constant term. And this leading term has a coefficient here. And all the numbers that are before the variable, they're called coefficients. So 4, -5, -3, -4, -10. I put a lot of negatives here, didn't I? -4, -1, which is not written. And these are all coefficients. Okay, these are all coefficients. And the coefficient of the leading term, right here, the 4, that's called the leading coefficient. So the coefficient of the leading term. Now you have first to appreciate that the exponents here, see, x to the 7th, x to the 6th, x to the 5th, these are arranged in decreasing order. Okay, so when they're in the decreasing order, the term with the highest exponent, that will be the leading term, and the constant term is last. It is mathematical manners, so to speak, to write a polynomial in decreasing order of the exponents. Okay, it's mustahab to do this, so to speak. It's the proper way of writing a polynomial, to write from the highest degree to the lowest degree. Highest exponent to the lowest exponent. Now, the highest exponent is important here, okay? The highest exponent is very important because that gives the polynomial the name, okay? It gives the name to the polynomial. Here, the highest degree, highest exponent is 7, so this is called a 7th degree polynomial. Okay, so it's like somebody graduates high school, they're called a high school graduate, not called, you know, a elementary school graduate anymore, because they have graduated from high school. Somebody graduates from college, they're called college graduate. They're not called high school graduate anymore because they already graduated from high school. Despite that, you're called college graduate from the highest level of education. Same thing here. A polynomial is named after the highest exponent. Okay, so these are some terms that we have to appreciate. So let me reiterate some of these terms. This is, first of all, this is a polynomial. And then you observe a polynomial is arranged from the highest exponent to the lowest exponent. This highest exponent gives the name to the polynomial. So this is called a 7th degree polynomial. Notice the 7th degree polynomial has 8 terms, right? Because it's x to the 1 over here, and you can say there's x to the 0 here. That's not written because x to the 0 is 1. So this is a 7th degree polynomial, okay? And each of these individually, they're called terms, right? So there are 8 terms in this polynomial. And the first term, when it's arranged in the decreasing order, that's called the leading term. Okay, and the coefficient of the leading term, like there, that's called the leading coefficient. Okay, and they're all these are coefficients. Okay, one thing I wanted to bring to your attention is, for example, 4x to the 7th minus 6x cubed plus 4. Now this is also a polynomial. This polynomial has 3 terms, right? And the degree of this polynomial, what's the degree of this polynomial? This is still a 7th degree polynomial. So this is a 7th degree polynomial with 3 terms, and this is a 7th degree polynomial with 8 terms. Okay, so so far so good. So this is the leading coefficient, leading term. And the last one over here, the caboose, so to speak, the last term is a constant term. It has no variable associated. It's a constant term. Okay? So these are some basic terms that we need to know about polynomials. Now look, here's a polynomial. Now this is a 3rd degree polynomial, correct? So this is a 3rd degree polynomial with 3 terms. And this is a 2nd degree polynomial, correct? That's a 2nd degree polynomial. And 2nd degree polynomial, see, is very special. A 2nd degree polynomial, this is called a quadratic function, quadratic polynomial. That's called a quadratic. So a quadratic function is a 2nd degree polynomial function. For example, y equals x squared minus 4x plus 5. So this is a 2nd degree polynomial function, and a 2nd degree polynomial function is called a quadratic function, correct? Now, I hope you appreciate the difference between, look at this, x squared minus 4x plus 5, okay? This is an algebraic expression. X squared minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. This is an algebraic equation. Y equals x squared minus 4x plus 5. This is an algebraic function. So that's the difference between these terms: an expression, an equation, and a function. Okay, and just to complete this, you can say x squared minus 4x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 0. That would be an algebraic inequality. Okay, so these are some expressions that are that we need to appreciate. So again, a quadratic function is a second degree polynomial function. So there we have it. That's the definition of a quadratic function. This chapter is all about quadratic functions. Okay, and inshallah we will learn a great deal, and we'll review a great deal about quadratic functions next time we begin this chapter. Until then, الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله والحمد لله رب العالمين.